At the cusp of this video is me having sat down for about an hour and 14 minutes to look very carefully at Colin Moriarty's video where he compared Xbox to Icarus. Apparently, I realized that that video was a console war video. By the time Colin Moriarty got to the end, he was already putting memes and expressing copium to the Xbox fanboys who thought that Xbox was going to take their games exclusive. But I'm not interested in exclusivity, neither am I interested in a stupid console war. I've been wanting to understand Xbox's business strategy and how they're going to come into the gaming space and compete in a time where their console sales were bludgeoned from the Xbox One generation. I've been following Game Pass, following their Xbox Series launch very carefully, and a lot of people, when Phil Spencer sits for an interview, I gotta say the questions that they ask are kind of wild. Like, I would hope that they ask like business level questions, but for the most part, it's, a lot of stuff that has to do with, very minimal things that honestly are not impactful. I mean, even Paul Tassi had to write an article saying, well, y'all need to stop asking Phil Spencer if logos of PlayStation are going to appear on announcements when they're announcing the game to inform PlayStation players that they want them to buy their games. So again, it doesn't really make any sense. So what I've done is I've gone back to this Xbox's updates on Xbox business video from a year ago where they were talking about the only 4 games. And I wanted to go ahead and see and paint a picture of what Phil Spencer is thinking about this particular company. In fact, I'm even taking notes. Wow, I know, right? It's crazy. Is it that serious? Yes. Because if we know, then we shouldn't be surprised as to what's going on. I'm also going to, in this video, take stock of another pivotal shift that was carried out by Herman Holst, who is, or at the time was, the head of PlayStation's worldwide studios in 2020, where even he made some statements that have now reflected a change in the paradigm when it comes to PlayStation's own business. So let's go ahead and jump into this whole conversation.
Well, we hear from the community, and that's an important input for us. So we made the decision that we're going to take 4 games to the other consoles, just 4 games. Not a change to our kind of fundamental exclusive strategy. We're making these decisions for some specific reasons. We make every decision really with the long-term health of Xbox in mind.
When you said fundamental exclusive strategy, I still think the leadership team at this point were still thinking about keeping games exclusive. And yeah, you can technically say that some games are exclusive to the Xbox console, but the fundamental Xbox exclusive strategy was already toast all the way back in 2016, with Steam being the platform where Xbox went and grabbed a hold of a new audience. Also, it was toast when you had the Crap Gamer pretty much in a conversation with Phil Spencer about Quantum Break going to PC, and Phil saying that he said over and over again that they were focused on the best place to play games for gamers, not about creating walls. This put Phil in a very interesting position, and the Crap Gamer as well, because some people liked it and some people did not like it. So again, when he said fundamental exclusive strategy, I'm thinking maybe they were having discussions about this, but Phil's already been head on, gung-ho, years previous. It's just interesting to see.
And long-term health of Xbox means a growing platform, our games performing.
And this is a very important part that a lot of people are not paying attention to. I took some notes. He's talking about the long-term health of Xbox's platform. In this particular, spew that he does, he makes mention of 4 things and talks about a strategy to accomplish these 4 things. I don't know who's doing video game analysis on the internet, but I gotta say, ladies and gentlemen, the way that they're looking at the gaming industry, they're looking at it from an exclusively console warish, PlayStation sell more units, Xbox don't sell unit, yabba dubba, caveman hit big head with a stick meme, copium yabba da. It's so stupid in many cases that sometimes if you really want to have an intelligent conversation, you really can't find much of it anywhere. What does this actually mean? What is he saying? And you can already see that their business strategy for them to grow their platform is understanding that they have to reach players where they are. Number 1 and number 4 are almost inherently connected. Games performing is also connected to reaching as many players as they can, because they saw that in the days of the beatdown of their console, they had to actually make that pivot, and it's paid off. A lot of people continue to look at Xbox's business as just the console, to their own detriment, to their own miss, because Xbox's games are far reaching than that particular paradigm. Every game that Xbox has, having the capability to reach people when it's necessary, when it's needed, is a strong suit of Xbox's business strategy, especially seeing how PlayStation positions it in their own internal leaks. Because PlayStation has always maintained an exclusivity strategy, but realizing that Microsoft not only was moving its games to PC and other platforms, now had big publishers under its own hand, and doing the same thing was going to disrupt the entire order of video games, whereby it been claimed that things had to be exclusive, or at least it's been positioned in front of gamers that things had to be exclusive in order for them to be better. A lot of people are still touting this exclusivity nonsense. We play on Steam where, for the most part, you're not going to get an exclusive on PC for years, right? Most of those games are going to go to console. Valve is not here to make too many games. They'll make some games here and there. They have their games that are big franchises for them, live service games. But again, they have a platform that they're confident in. But most PC players are not sitting here touting exclusivity. They are on the platform for what the platform values. On console, most console players have basically been told and pretty much marketed to that this platform, you're going to have these exclusive benefits, games that make those games better than what everybody else has. But in a saturated market where everybody is making good games, and in many cases better games than PlayStation and Xbox, even Nintendo themselves, that strategy doesn't work. Right? And so I'm going back to this video and I'm looking at it and saying, he's over here basically exposing or presenting Xbox's business strategy in very simple terms.
Building the best platform for creators, reaching as many players as we can. We're always looking to learn as a leadership team and to grow. And we think this is an interesting point in time for us to use what some of the other platforms have right now to help grow our franchises. So we're going to do
what
that.
do these platforms have right now that Xbox is interested in using to grow its business or grow its franchises? They have gamers. Nintendo's got a bunch of gamers and PlayStation's got a bunch of gamers. It's right here in front of you from a business strategic place. Exclusivity cannot exist in tandem with this paradigm. Do you see this? Exclusivity cannot exist with these 4 points that have been made here. If anything, exclusivity will undermine all of this. So anybody who's thinking that somewhere, somehow, Xbox is going to have to go exclusive, that will be them basically making all these plans and then throwing the plans out the window. It doesn't make any sense. Not at all.
So these 4 titles, what are they? Can you say?
I'm not going to name those games. The teams that are building those games have announced plans that are not too far away. As we know, game teams put a lot of energy into their announcements with the partners. So I don't want to take anything away from those teams. So I won't be talking about the titles specifically, but I think when they come out,
It was Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Ground.
Can we say if either of those titles are Starfield or Indiana Jones?
They are not Starfield or
Okay,
Indiana
so those
Jones.
4 games were not Starfield and Indiana Jones at the time.
Well, what was the criteria in how the team was thinking about selecting those 4 titles?
Let me start a little bit outside of that, and then I'll get to the 4 specific games that we're talking about right now. Because the fundamental decision driver for any decision that we make, anything we're going to talk about today, is the long-term health of Xbox. That we're running a growing platform that is reaching more players, that our games are having as much success as possible. And I do have a fundamental belief that over the next 5 or 10 years, exclusive games that are exclusive to one piece of hardware, are going to be a smaller and smaller part of the game industry. And that's not some great insight, because if you look at the last 10 years and what the biggest games are today, it's a natural place. Whether it's one console and PC, multiple consoles, mobile console and PC, you see big games landing on multiple platforms.
Even PlayStation games are landing on multiple platforms. And this is where the pivot I wanted to show you with PlayStation is. I promised you we'd get there. Herman Holst in this Q&A interview back then, in the time that Horizon Zero Dawn was actually making its way to PC, the upcoming PC port of Horizon Zero Dawn, Herman Holst is cited as saying, in this particular paradigm, ladies and gentlemen, that because of this, it's important to be open, to stay open to new ideas and how to introduce more people to PlayStation. Every gaming company is thinking of this, Nintendo themselves. Don't be fooled. And to show people maybe what they have been missing out on. I'm not going to buy, there's no longer going to be a purchase of Nintendo items in this home. It's it. Though I bought my children a Nintendo console. That's already being replaced by gaming PCs across the board. The games I bought for them, that's the last. We're not doing it. We're not going out of our way to go and, entertain Nintendo on their own terms. No. If they want more money, then they can have a conversation on the terms that gamers outside of Nintendo are willing to actually have that conversation. And he said, and to maybe put a few minds at ease, releasing one first-party AAA title on PC doesn't necessarily mean that every game will now come to PC. In my mind, Horizon Zero Dawn was just a great fit in this particular instance. We don't have plans for a day and date PC release, and we remain 100% committed to dedicated hardware. But since then, we know he's pivoted. Since then, he came out and said that live service games were going to go to PC day one. Since then, we've seen some PlayStation games launch on Xbox and Nintendo. Since then, we've started to see that almost every PlayStation game, and this is at the cusp of the launch of the PlayStation 5, is now coming to PC. Because the exclusivity strategy, as Phil is saying it here, it's not going to work because the industry is just shifted significantly.
We want to be a great platform for creators that are trying to realize that potential. But now back to the specifics of the question on these four specific titles. We looked at games that are over a year old, so they've been on Xbox and PC for a while. A couple of the games are community-driven games, new games, that kind of first iterations of a franchise. Oh, wow,
community-driven games. So basically the live service games. Okay. So there are different criteria here. So let's take some notes as to, at the time anyways, what they were seeing would probably go to, other platforms. So old games, community games, that's basically live service games or co-op games of some sort, right? Okay, what else is on his mind?
That have reached their full potential, I'd say, on Xbox and PC.
Okay, games that have reached their full potential on Xbox and PC. I mean, he's saying PC, but he's talking about exclusivity, which is like, maybe he was tiptoeing around the hardcore fanboys and then finally realized that there's no reasoning with hyper fandom. So full potential reached. Okay. I'm just trying to take notes, man, because, when fanboys are addressing this stuff, man,
growth. Franchises that we obviously, I'd say, on Xbox and PC, there's always growth. Franchises that we obviously want to continue to invest in. Part of having the ability to continue to invest is that the businesses behind those franchises continue. We think it's important that these service-based games that have communities behind them, that they can have confidence that they're going to exist.
Okay, so businesses continue. This is basically keep studios open and not shut them down because, you've basically milked and dried their source of income, but continue to do so. And then he talks about community games again so that they can invest more in it. So a year ago, he was already hinting at exactly what you more than likely see going to other platforms. And so now that Xbox has like 12 of these games in total, probably making their way to PlayStation, it makes sense that a game like Halo, at some point, if it's reached its full potential, if this new Halo comes out or whatever it is, they might start to move those games to PlayStation. Because in order for those studios to stay open, in order for them to basically to maintain profitability, viability, they need audiences. This is a wise leader. I just have to say it. This is a wise leader in the face of a lot of stupid people. I'm telling you, this is I'll say it. This is a wise leader in the face of a bunch of stupid people. A lot of these people would prefer that a gaming studio close down than their game go to another platform to play. They prefer that. That's a stupid preference. I can understand if maybe you bought into the ecosystem, because you thought exclusivity was there and all that. But then looking at how the industry has shifted on everybody, it's impossible for them to keep a sustainable business without actually cutting their leg off to please somebody. It makes sense to me.
Them kind of community-driven games that will end up on other platforms and give us the ability to continue to invest in them. We think that's great for the business and great for the communities, more players to play with. I'd say two of the other games are smaller games that were never really meant to be built as kind of platform exclusives and all the fanfare that goes around that. But games that our teams really wanted to go build, that we love supporting creative endeavors across our studios, regardless of size. And as they've realized their full potential on Xbox and PC, we see an opportunity to utilize the other platforms as a place to just drive more business value out of those games, allowing us to invest in maybe future iterations of those, so sequels to those, or just other games like that in our portfolio. Us to invest in maybe future iterations of those.
When this video was covered, it was covered from such a terrible fanboy lens that a lot of people would not shut up and actually listen to the business proposition. A lot of questions that should have been asked in podcasts and interviews subsequently should have been asking for this to be broken down much more. Rather than, is my logo going to show? Is this game going to come here? And we were telling y'all about this strategy. I told you guys, right? The Trojan horse strategy. You guys said it's because they're desperate. Games that have reached their full potential. We've already made money from it. Age of Empires. We're going to bring it to you so that you guys can now continue to pay for it so that we can make more games. Forza. We've already achieved 40 million people playing Forza on Xbox. It's been profitable. It's made us money. However, there's some of you on PlayStation that wouldn't mind another racing game. We'll bring it to you. That is a reality. That's how you do business. That is how you do business. It's like me saying that I want my contents to be exclusive to one, audience base. Why would I want that? Nobody wants that.
Sequels to those, or just other games like that in our portfolio. And when we don't damage Xbox and we can grow our business using what other platforms have and to help us with that, we're going to do that. And that's really the story behind these 4 games. And last thing I'll say, looking forward, I think there is an interesting story for us of introducing Xbox franchises to players on other platforms to get them more interested in Xbox. We think there's a good brand value for Xbox there. So 4 games, no promise beyond that. So if you're on those other platforms and you see these 4 games coming, please don't take it as some signal that everything's coming. It's not. And we're going to learn.
So when you are thinking about the future,
he opened himself up to possibly learning, and just like Herman Holst said, and to maybe with a few minds and views, just because one first-party game is releasing on PC doesn't mean that every game will now come to PC. Okay. All I see here are executives trying to navigate their way through the gaming landscape, right? And I remember Phil Spencer was called a liar for actually saying this and doing this, but I haven't seen anybody call Herman Holst a liar as well. Don't you see that? It's very interesting, isn't it?
and this concept of live service games that can benefit from bigger audiences, new audiences. How does that apply to future titles and how you're applying that criteria there?
Yeah, there's really no fundamental change to how we think about exclusivity. We just came out of Developer Direct, which was an awesome show, where we showed great games that are coming to Xbox and PC and cloud, which really makes them accessible to hundreds of millions of people. So it's this kind of, we're really focused on a couple platforms and what's going to show up there. But our key of play the games you want with the people you want, anywhere you want, when everybody plays, we all win. These have been part of our strategy.
I'm so shocked that people are not thinking about this from there. I mean, does Avowed have a release date for PlayStation? It doesn't. So again, there are titles that you can basically get on Xbox, some you can't. Indiana Jones, expensive freaking game. Again, like I've said, and some people disagree with me, Indiana Jones should have been a day one launch on PlayStation. However, I can concede that there's some benefit to have probably said, let it stay on Xbox for a little bit. And anybody who wants to play it there, who wants to play it now, maybe, access through cloud or whatever, based on that Xbox Era interview where that gentleman, was said to have gone in and, and done that. So that's interesting.
Will continue to be. Our focus is on how do we continue to grow the games industry by reaching more players in more places, and how do we grow Xbox as part of that. Xbox is a hardware platform, Xbox is a publisher of great games, and Xbox as a platform for the world's best creators.
Mm-hmm. And then knowing that, how do we think about our first-party games and Game Pass?
Yeah, well, to build on what Phil just said, one thing I would add, as you were talking about growth, is just that we've sort of seen this inversion over the last 5 years where it used to be that the platform was the biggest thing.
That's right.
And the games would sort of tuck in within the platform. Today, big games like a Roblox or a Fortnite could actually be bigger than any one platform.
Yeah,
and that really has changed the way that we think about things.
Man,
so in the midst,
Colin Moriarty, you owe Phil Spencer and Matt Booty an apology for that video that you just made. You do. You do, because Fortnite itself is a platform and its biggest presence is on PlayStation. It literally sits and uses PlayStation as a means to deploy its platform. And that's just the reality. Its highest player count at about 11 million active users for one game is almost 10% of all of PlayStation's own monthly active users. He's very spot on. Very accurate in this particular means. What he just said, you have there's raw data to actually go ahead and pull this out and see and say, yes, he's correct.
of all that, I think we at First Party can come back to sort of some core principles. First, that all of our games will be on the Xbox platform. Second, all of our games will go into Game Pass on day one. And third, we know that Game Pass will only be available on Xbox.
Here are the tenets. Here are the tenets for now anyways. I guess, business can change, right? So all games on Xbox. I know people are like, oh, well, is there going to be support for it? Will you stop? All games on Game Pass and Game Pass on Xbox. Now, this is a technicality, though, and I got to put an asterisk by it because Game Pass is available on PC, but it's via Xbox on PC. Just wanted to put that caveat out there.
So there's sort of starting points for us. As Phil mentioned, there are games today that you can play that only can be found on Xbox. And at the same time, we want to bring more of our games to more players. So we're going to continue
That's
to
also
look
a
at
technicality. Asterisk. There are games today you can play that can only be found on Xbox. Asterisk, because all those games can be on PC as well. Xbox doesn't have an exclusive. They don't have exclusivity. It's not there. Now, console exclusivity, yeah, sure. But again, just pointing that out.
Kind of moving aside, though, from some of those and thinking more about what does it really mean for the player, to me, the two key things are cross-play and cross-save. Those things allow us to deliver on the promise of Xbox, which is play with your friends where they are, play on the devices you want, play the games you want. So that is really only possible at a practical level when you know that your saves and your player are going to be able to move across all those parts. So not all of our games today are necessarily built to take advantage of that. There still will be some games that don't.
Jazz, I hope you listen to this because everyone's talking about cross-play, cross-save. They bought some games where maybe you may have had it on two different platforms. Cross-save may not be necessarily something that they can pull off from there, or cross-save. But I think a lot of, new games that are coming are going to be able to support a lot of those functionalities.
As we bring more teams into the Xbox family, there's some catch-up to do as we get there. But that cross-play, cross-save is so fundamental to what we're doing, and I think is something that we as First Party get such a good benefit from being so close to the platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
I mean, that's
Sarah's
one
about
of
to
the
talk,
things.
and she's also going to drop a bunch of business dimes. Goodness, this was such a very revealing video for anybody who was, wondering what Xbox's business was going to look like. There was a lot of fomenting of uncertainty. There wasn't uncertainty. It was just the media fomenting it. Now the media wants to complain and say, we need to stop asking Phil Spencer what games are going to have a logo, blah, 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 blah. But this stuff was out there the whole time.
Like you said, all of our games are always in Game Pass. And so I'm excited to announce, with the coming together that we had with Activision Blizzard King, that Activision and Blizzard games are coming to Game Pass, starting with Diablo 4 on March 28th, which I'm
There was a lot of questions
about
about that, but now we know, anything Activision makes is a Game Pass, launch.
Today. And it's all part of our commitment to make the Xbox experience and the games that we build as widely available as possible. So now the 34 million Game Pass members can all enjoy the fantastic experience of Diablo 4.
Amazing. Can we come back to the point, Phil, you mentioned at the top, this isn't really a change in strategy for us. Can you recap for me?
Yeah, I want to understand this more.
And I thought both Matt and Sarah did a really nice job of talking about what we're doing on Xbox, where we're going. If you take a platform feature like Xbox Play Anywhere, which has been a promise that we've made on our first-party games, that you can buy our game once, you're going to get to play across Xbox and Windows. I think we're the only platform that does this. That makes it possible for you not only to play with your friends wherever they are, but to know that you actually have multiple entitlements to the games. I think that's a technology I would love to see applied to more platforms.
Many of them might not. It's one thing to have this. It's a nice benefit. I think it's a really pro-consumer benefit.
But it is this view that people are going to play Xbox in multiple places, whether it's play the games you want with the people you want, anywhere you want, whether it's content, community, and cloud, whether it's when everybody plays, we all win. Like, we've had different taglines, different strategy, kind of words that we've used, but always with this view that Xbox is a platform for creators who want to reach the most players. Our investments in xCloud, our investments in franchises like Minecraft and now Call of Duty and other large franchises, so that we learn how to build those. This has been a strategy that we've been on for, I'd say, a decade. It's not about one device. It's not about games in service of a device, but rather the devices that people want to play on should be in service of making the games as big and popular as they possibly
This whole conversation with the Crap Gamer, the man was giving you the business strategy back then on Twitter. I don't know many execs that will give you the game on Twitter, but you weren't interested. You didn't care. So, okay.
Because really, a healthy creator community on Xbox, a healthy creator community in gaming all up, is the thing that all of us as game players should be voting for, because that's the thing that will lead to the best long-term success and growth in this industry.
And my understanding, just from listening and learning from you three over the past few weeks, just understanding what's happening with Xbox, is that we see trends with player behavior where people are playing on multiple devices. That is the reality. And we have put some games out on multiple platforms before. So my understanding is that that's been good for players. How does that come back to the business with all of that?
So again, she's alluding to this, where games have been put on PC for many years. I think this is probably what it is, because then this was kind of new that they were going to go ahead and move these games at the time, and it'd been good for the business. I mean, I've been saying this for the longest time.
Yeah, as you said, we have shipped games on other platforms. In fact, realistically, if you look with the addition of Activision and Blizzard and ZeniMax, we're one of the largest game publishers on PlayStation. We're one of the largest publishers on the Nintendo Switch, especially when you put Minecraft into the equation as well. And now we're one of the largest publishers on mobile platforms as well. And that's not something that we want to back away from. We want to continue to be building great games that millions and millions of people can love. So why
is the PlayStation fanboy community approaching this like it's a slur to be a third-party publisher, when you've pretty much bought your way into it? Why? It's a business strategy that they're deciding to go with, and it's working for them. What's wrong with that? You've basically distinguished your business from everybody else, and you had the means to do it.
And that they can play those games where they want to go play. But we do understand the business success that Xbox has to have. us as leaders in this business, the system today, the system that all companies that we play video games from, is a world of you got to be growing your business. Growth in our Xbox business is critical to the long-term health of Xbox. Many people know I've been on Xbox for over 20 years, and I want to make sure Xbox is in the best position for the next 20 years. That means healthy player community, healthy creator community, and healthy business. So when we look at opportunities to allow more people to play, more people engage, more people to buy, more people to subscribe, it's all about putting Xbox in the best position. And our hardware is a critical component
All this,
of that.
did you hear that? All of this nonsense that has gone on in the past year. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe. Ah, man. I said it already, and I'll stand on it. Colin Moriarty, you owe Matt Booty and Phil Spencer an apology for your analogy with Icarus in Squint. That is not going to be allowed to just pass from critical thought. I'm sorry. I don't care how long you've been in the gaming industry. Does not give you, that's just an appeal to time. That means nothing in the context and the reality of gaming. Yes, and I'm now naming names. I no longer want to sit in the shadows and act like, oh, some, no name. No. We have individuals that are actually fomenting a lot of this stuff, and they need to be actually asked, what is your reasoning behind this? And if your reasoning does not necessarily stand up to scrutiny and the light, then they probably need to back down from it or just admit that they're console warriors at heart.
Absolute best experience somebody has on Xbox is hardware that your team builds and that people play on. But that's not going to be everybody. We fully accepted that we're going to have Xbox players across all kinds of devices.
So I think a lot of people think about 2023 as this incredible year for gaming. And in a lot of ways it was. There were some really amazing releases that I think we all enjoyed. But what were the signals behind the scenes that maybe indicated how we wanted to look at the future of Xbox and how we kind of keep up with the industry?
Yeah, such a good question. And I think it's, as people who care about the industry, which I assume is people who are watching this, it was an amazing year. Some great launches, some of the games that I think will stand the test of time and people will be talking about a decade from now. But it's an industry that didn't really grow. And what happens when an industry doesn't grow? You end up with some job eliminations, which we had.
Destin made a video yesterday saying that the console market wasn't growing. And you should have seen the drag on this guy. Let's see if we can find Destin. Yeah. This video, he said PS5 sales 75 million, but Xbox revenue is still doing okay. And he talks about it in a video. And is this the video? It was a live stream. Right? And boy, I tell you what, the comment section dragging this man, saying, well, the PlayStation console is growing, it's selling and all this stuff. But a lot of these people aren't realizing that in order for PlayStation to have said it sustained a business, it closed all these studios. Xbox basically laid off a whole bunch of people from an industry that they're claiming is growing. No, your console sales are tracking with the previous generation of consoles. That does not indicate growth. Sure, you said 40% of the people who actually bought those PS5 consoles were new users. Okay. But you have to also think, if they're the new users, why are you still tracking as close to the last generation? Shouldn't you be 40% ahead? But you're only 7% ahead. So something is pulling you back in the growth. Interesting, isn't it?
Our own hard decisions to make about building a sustainable business for ourselves, but in no way were we alone in that. When you think about a healthy industry, I want players who believe that they will find the best games on the platforms that they love. I want people who invest their careers in working here to feel like this is a place that they can be successful. And that really is down to being part of an industry that is growing. If you listen to Lisa Su, the AMD CEO, she'll say that AMD-powered consoles are likely to decline in 2024. I think there's an amazing set of games coming in 2024, but if we don't get to growing as an industry, the industry will struggle.
Simple.
And today there's really two choices on how do you grow the industry. Do you say I have a fixed number of players, the players that we have today, and do I find new ways to monetize those players to get more money from the players that I have? Or do you think about how do I expand the business I have by finding new players and adding those to the base of players that already play. Our focus on Xbox for the last decade has really been on that latter point.
PlayStation is going to upsell you. Xbox is going to find other players. Two different business strategies. That's why you're buying a $700 PlayStation 5 Pro console. Some people have said it's because there's a lack of competition. No, it's because they actually said that they were going to basically go with the Sony Impact for a premium sales model approach. PlayStation is not going to sell more than or significantly more than the consoles that it's already sold in the last generation. For instance, what I mean by that is PlayStation is not going to hit, from what we're seeing, from what they're tracking in the trend, they're not going to sell 200 million PS5s. Right? They sold 150, 120, I don't know how many PS4s, right? But for you to think that they're going to sell 200 million PS4, they're not going to hit that number. They're not. So what they're going to do is they're going to upsell you the PlayStation player. They're going to give you remasters. They're going to give you multi-remasters, remasters of remasters. They're going to upsell you $10 for you to basically get a Days Gone, a game that they refuse to make a sequel for, but they're going to make a horde mode. They made a mode and they're going to sell it to you for $10. That is an upsell premium strategy. Xbox, on the other hand, wants to go out and find new players and has been doing it for the last few years, obviously on PC. Interesting.
Of how do we make sure Xbox is growing for our players, growing for our creators, so those people are finding success on our platform, which will grow the Xbox business and put Xbox in a position to be very strong for years and decades to come.
Matt, earlier you were talking about these growing gaming communities, how they're incredibly large, and comparable on such a different level when we think about console audiences. Like you mentioned Roblox, you mentioned Fortnite. So how are we're obviously thinking about our responsibility, our hardware responsibility is supporting the growth of gaming communities. How has that actually shown up for the players? Are there other games we can speak to from our portfolio?
Well, as Phil mentioned, I mean, two of the biggest ones for us, Call of Duty and Minecraft, I mean, they are driven just from the bottom up by the communities of people that play those games, which is so great. I think about it, for the player community, it comes down to where are the friends, where are the people you play with, and then equally important is where have you built up your library of games, right? Where have you
Sorry about that. The library of games. I saw somebody say that the library of games was an excuse and people will be willing to abandon their library. But how would you abandon your library if there's value that's actually being given to you on your platform that you like? It's not just, it's not just about the library. It's about the value proposition. These people that keep saying, that they may move to PlayStation and all that stuff because, they don't like the proposition from Xbox. They probably were already dissatisfied, right? They already were dissatisfied. I don't think there's much that Xbox could have done to keep them. If exclusives is what they want, then them running to PlayStation is already kind of like a failed premise because PlayStation is pretty much getting rid of exclusivity as a whole by moving to PC and them changing their strategy and then flirting with moving their games to Xbox by just selling their licenses or allowing other developers to acquire licenses of games that they've already spent money to develop or spent money to money hat and then moving them to to Xbox. Ilphonics Predator Hunting Grounds, Ghost of Death Stranding from Kojima, MLB The Show. These games already indicate that the exclusivity strategy is one that cannot sustain majority of games in the industry.
Invested. Where's that library? I think those two things probably are some of the biggest influences on where people choose to play and what devices they choose to play.
Yeah.
When we think about, on the other side, the developer side, just any game developer wants their game to find the biggest audience possible. That's just the nature of building a game. You want people to enjoy and participate in what you've made. And I think we're in a unique position to deliver on that just because we are the platform. We build hardware, we've got a first-party games group, and then we've got a system that ties that together, that brings together your friends, your progression, your achievements, all of that. And I think that's really what has contributed to the momentum behind some of these communities.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't watched this particular, update in its full context. I've watched sections, and all that. And just seeing the way this thing was reported on was just so weird because, guys, it takes a lot of time. I've been here for almost 40 minutes just walking through a 22-minute video, but I'm trying to break down and understand Xbox's business. And so whenever I watch a lot of videos and see a lot of people comment on Xbox's business strategy and stuff and how they try to basically make it, look like it's insanity, while they're over here telling you exactly what this, and then people drawing conclusions like, well, this means they're not going to make another Xbox console. This means that they're not going to support Xbox. And then you're hearing them talk about how it's critical to their business in these conversations. I really don't understand what's going on. I'm telling you, man, these people are people running a business that they want to be successful in a pool of stupid people across the industry.
When you look at, just step back and you look at the history of the industry, we've moved from a place where it used to be that someone built and launched a game to accelerate hardware to actually the things we do with our hardware and with our platform are all in service of making those games bigger.
If she was lying, PlayStation would have sold more of its software this last quarter. However, they sold more hardware and less software than the quarter previously, even when they launched new software, Astrobot, this particular quarter. And one of its high sellers was actually, sold in more quantities than a bigger platform, thereby giving them more sales across the board in software that beat their other software piece, Spider-Man 2, when it was exclusive to the platform.
And we think about that across all of the investments we make, the consoles we build, the investments we do with things like cross-play, cross-progression, the things that we're doing with cloud. How do we actually give more options to game creators so they can have the greatest success?
Xbox has solved two problems. It solved the problem that it has, which is lack of console sales, and solved the problem that PlayStation has, which is lack of software sales, by basically making their games available in subscription, in cloud, on PC, and on other consoles. They've pretty much gone ahead to resolve the issues that they would have and position themselves for better business health in the next coming years. And people, well, again, like I said, a lot of the talking heads and a lot of people that are saying this stuff, I don't know, man. I can't qualify anything other than just sheer stupidity, because you guys want these studios to close and not make games. That's what y'all want.
I think one of the fun recent examples about this is actually Power World. Power World was able to launch. They were a game preview. They launched in Game Pass. They also simultaneously launched in Steam. And through the combination of those things, Pocket Pair was able to have this outsized success. And it was the largest third-party Game Pass launch ever. And that's all because we give creators options on how they can launch their games. We've got subscription, we've got retail, we've got free-to-play, we've got great preview.
By the way, Power World decimated everything launched on PlayStation in the last few years. And it was a preview. Can you imagine that? That's business for you. That's business for you.
We have the consoles, we have our experience on PC, and they can access all of those things. And when we step back and we just look at the performance of our platform all up, we know it's working. We're at the highest level of users on console, the highest level of users on PC, the highest level of users on cloud ever. We have double-digit growth rate on PC and cloud, places where we're enabling creators to actually reach new players beyond the console ecosystem. And that's why we're leaning into it and doing more, because we see
she
all those
just told you. They're going to continue to push this thing even further. And anybody who wants to maintain exclusivity, like I said, guys, PlayStation is cosplaying exclusivity. That they're not truly keeping exclusivity like Nintendo. And very soon, Nintendo is going to notice that in a market that's not growing, because they're just going to replicate what they had last year, they're probably going to maybe say, maybe we want to stay comfortable here and keep it going. But if it ever came down to the point where Nintendo's influence and Nintendo's, in-house recognition is becoming lowered, because it is, I can already tell you, because people like myself are not going to keep their children on the Nintendo ecosystem for long. Those things are going to be replaced with Steam Decks and and these handhelds. It's just a shift, slow as it may seem, but one that will erode into that, already established order that Nintendo thinks it has. Can't stay like that forever. The market doesn't do that, especially in an innovative market like the one that we've been seeing in gaming in the last few years. Nintendo's bound to be rattled very soon. Watch and see.
So we're talking about the role that hardware plays for creators, for the games and those communities. What about the role that hardware plays for us as a business?
Very
for
good
Xbox?
question.
When we look at our hardware, it really is, and Phil said this earlier, it's where you get like the most flagship seminal experience.
I told you
of
that
Xbox.
yesterday in my video, because again, I fired up my Xbox, whatever. I showed you guys in real time. I turned my Xbox on, I connected to it via the remote, whatever, and I was looking at the stores and looking at the benefits across the board. And some of the benefits, I was like, we don't have this stuff on the PC side. It actually is a flagship. The only drawback to the Xbox ecosystem is its hardware capability. It's locked. You can't do anything with it. That's the biggest drawback to it. That was my biggest criticism of the Xbox console in the Gotham Knights days. Because a game like Gotham Knights, right? I bought the console version for Xbox. I also bought my Steam version, which I played more. But if I play this game on Xbox, I have to play at 30 FPS. But this exact same game, I play on PC, and I play with the full capabilities of my PC at 60, 90, 120 FPS. Yes, the game, phenomenal, performance experience, which is weird. They should have brought it out in that state rather than in the state that they did bring it out. They rushed that thing out. And she's actually very correct. It is the flagship, experience for Xbox on the hardware side.
It also represents a developer target. Our developers can build the specs of our hardware, and we invest to make sure they know when they do that the games are going to run great on our hardware, but they're also going to be able to be accessed across any stream.
This is Xbox's strategy. If you don't know this, if you don't see this, maybe go to PlayStation. I don't know. Do something. I see a lot of people saying, oh, Xbox is dead and all that stuff. Nah, they have to make hardware because they have to target. Can you imagine everybody that is now basically building a game, right, wants to sell it to the existing player base, a sequel, an anthology, third-party developers that have already launched on Xbox, like Capcom and all the others, and basically building a game and looking and saying, all right, Xbox, what's the next play? All right, PlayStation, what's the next play? What's your next-gen hardware going to look like? And I'm sure, based on confidentiality requirements, they've already given them CPU and GPU targets and say, our hardware is going to probably feature GPU and CPU power of this level. Start building your games to it so that they're aware and they know. The business is a lot bigger than 30 million versus 70 million or 75 million units. It's just way bigger than that.
Screen because of all the other investments we make. So we're giving them an easy way to access as many players as possible. And we actually have more creators right now building for Xbox than ever before.
Thousands.
By nature, thousands of them by nature of those investments.
So thousands more and they're going to leave the console business according to some of you? See, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot be entertaining crazy people, man. Like if we're going to talk about the video games industry, we need to go in and say what is in the world is going on. A lot of people are concluding that Xbox is no longer going to be in business. They were making these statements with even much less consoles sold than being argued upon today. Today, the argument is whether they sold 2 million more or whether they're at 35 million or whether they're at 30 million or less than 30 million. Even back then, they weren't even close to where people are arguing now, and they were still confident that they've given a lot of creators access into their ecosystem to reach more people and grow their businesses. Why would they want to disappoint players and developers at the same time? Do you know how devastating that's going to be for their business? We've allowed a lot of idiots to run free with false claims. And it's malicious at this point.
More to come. There's some exciting stuff coming out in hardware that we're going to share this holiday. And we're also invested in the next generation roadmap. And what we're really focused on there is delivering the largest technical leap you will have ever seen in a hardware generation, which makes it better for players and better for creators and the visions that they're building.
If they pull that off, well, we'll see.
And then when we're talking about hardware too, there's these other considerations that are really important to our community, probably to each one of ourselves as well. When you talk about library, because I want to dig in on that a little bit more. You know, as we talk about cloud in the wider entertainment industry, there's conversations about streaming. How is that impacting how I own my content that I've invested in? So what can we say about our stance around game preservation?
Yeah, you know, one of the highlights for me of being in this position was getting to stand on stage when we announced the back compat coming to Xbox One. Like, it was fantastic. People were reading the teleprompter before I could read it. I'm a slow reader, and just feeling the energy in the auditorium as we were saying that, and online. You know, one of the cues I think us as being part of Microsoft take is looking at Windows and how Windows over decades has maintained software compatibility with things that are built on it. Like, I can still go back and play some of the games that I love playing on Windows from decades ago, and it will still run. And we try to bring that same view to consoles. It's harder in console because the line between what the hardware is and what the game is in consoles is traditionally, it's tighter.
I'm thinking they're trying to open up their ecosystem. And okay, I see where you guys are coming from. Xbox players that have been telling about this new hardware, I think I see where it's coming from now. I see it.
Which makes compatibility, you end up doing these generational compatibilities that we've built. But I will say compatibility, the ability to not only play the games, but my saves are still there with our cloud save systems to try to keep the services up as long as we can so that people can play, is a tenet of what we are as Xbox. It's at our foundation. And when we look at future hardware generations and what we're going to support, making sure that we respect, which is the word I use, respect the investments that people have made in Xbox going forward is fundamental. And the fact that you get entitlements when you buy a game from us on both Windows and Xbox also means you have the ability to play that game across a multitude of devices, which I think furthers the compatibility.
I think a lot of people that are, so what's going on now is old school console warriors and exclusivists and all that have poisoned the conversation. They know Xbox's strategy, right? But they don't like it, so they've used it as a weapon and a tool to make it seem like Xbox is a dying brand, or Xbox, because they'll say, well, it's the console. The console's dead. But we all know that that's not true. And so they want to use it as a console war talking point and as a console war ammunition. But this is all being laid out, and the truth is always going to prevail. That's one thing about truth. You know, it's like a lion. When it roars, everything has to pretty much go ahead and shut up.
Can we go back to what Xbox stands for today? I think we've pretty much covered all of the elements, but if you could break it down for me.
You know, when you play on Xbox, what we're saying is you're playing on a platform where you know the biggest games in the world are always going to be. You're playing on a platform where you get to access Game Pass. And all of the games from our incredible range of studios will always launch in Game Pass day one. And you're playing on a platform that's dedicated to you, like player-first features, cross-play, cross-save, cross-progression, backwards compatibility, being able to play your games in your library anywhere you want because of the investments that we make in cloud gaming. And so you're playing somewhere where you're investing and you know you get to take the games forward with you and across all of the screens where you are. And I think most importantly, Xbox is a place where you know when you're investing in Xbox, you're investing somewhere that is dedicated to making games more successful and creators more successful so that they can invest more to bring even better experiences to you.
If you're a forward thinker, you will be pro what Xbox is doing. If you don't like it, then again, go to PlayStation or Nintendo or another platform where they prefer a certain kind of a business model that's not designed to push the gaming industry forward for more players, but for their own company's bottom and top line. That's about it. Now, this is going to push Xbox's bottom and top line, up. It's probably going to be a slow progression, but as people start to realize that, hey, this company has some, sustainability to it, and they're dedicated to bringing games, they're going to eventually find a way to dive into the ecosystem. They may not sell their consoles today. They may not sell their consoles next generation. They may buy PlayStations, but believe you me, if PlayStation does not change their business model, they're going to pretty much go by the wayside of irrelevance. because the market and the industry is changing.
Yeah, just that investment in the studios is so, and we feel that as part of first party with the platform proximity. You know, it's kind of amazing now to look out across all the studios that we've got and just be reminded that we're now one of the biggest development organizations in the industry. What does that mean for players? It means that the biggest games are going to continue to come to Xbox. And this 2024, the year coming up, we've got more than 10 major releases coming up.
Black Myth Wukong
Great
did not
stuff.
come to Xbox, but the developer said it's because they could not figure out the RAM limitations. Whereas other games that are much more challenging have been showing up, and everybody's been running all over the place trying to figure out what in the world is going on. But it's okay. Other games are going to come to Xbox, and even the developers have said that they're looking forward to bringing their game to Xbox. And in my mind, I think it's probably when the arrangements that they've probably made, that's my thinking anyways, because they've not come out to, say that there's no exclusivity deal with PlayStation. They haven't said that. And as long as they haven't said that, it leaves me room to speculate. So I speculate and I hypothesize that there's an exclusivity arrangement or agreement in place that's keeping the game away from Xbox.
Blade 2, they've got Diablo expansion, they've got Avowed, Ara, the Indiana Jones game, and there's more in development, which I think we're going to be able to share more about at our June showcase.
That June showcase killed it. And I think if you're on Xbox, I think what they're doing is actually quite solid. They've basically ascended to Steam status. They have. I saw Doc Dark. He said something about PlayStation being like Steam, and I said, no, Doc, they're not. They were forced into removing their PlayStation Online requirement. That is not Steam status. Steam status is that you open up the door for your gamers to have the ability to be able to enjoy their product in however fashion and whatever fashion they choose to. That is the Steam paradigm. That is what Xbox is gunning towards and trying to become. And I think it's working out for them. Very soon, as all these folk who are making all this noise eventually get silenced, because many of them are clearly lying, I think it's going to be apparent. Thanks for indulging me and watching the video for an hour and, dealing with all the kid noise in the background. It's a very busy house. This is why I don't do podcasts or any long form interviews. But again, we're on a little break and I thought I'd take some time to dive deep into this. Peace out.